What if the person you're terrified of becoming is the only version of you that can actually win? Not the polite one, not the agreeable one, not the version that keeps shrinking so other people feel comfortable. Most people spend their entire lives running from their darker traits: aggression, ambition, emotional coldness, hunger for control, because society taught them those things are bad. But here's the harsh truth. The crowd isn't trying to become powerful. They're trying to become acceptable. And you're not like them. If you were, you wouldn't be here. The mindless crowd wants safety. You want dominance over your own life. Let's talk about the person you're afraid to become. The one who says no without guilt. The one who walks away without explaining. The one who doesn't need validation. The one who can be ruthless with time, energy, and emotion. That version of you scares you because it threatens everything you were trained to be: nice, quiet, predictable. Dark psychology teaches something uncomfortable. Your fear isn't protecting you, it's controlling you. You're afraid of becoming powerful because power separates you from the herd, and humans are wired to fear separation more than failure. Think about this. Why do you hesitate to be direct? Why do you soften your words? Why do you apologize for wanting more? Because deep down, you're terrified that if you stop pleasing people, you'll be alone. But look around. You're already alone in your ambition. You're already different in your thinking. You already feel disconnected from average conversations, average goals, average lives. So, why are you still pretending to be average? Here's the paradox. The person you're afraid to become is not a monster. They are simply someone who has stopped asking for permission. Dark psychology doesn't mean being evil. It means understanding power, fear, and human behavior, starting with your own. Right now, there's a war happening inside you. One side says, stay safe, stay liked, don't make waves. The other side says, be honest, be sharp, be dangerous with purpose. And every time you choose comfort, the dangerous version of you dies a little. Let me expose something no one says out loud. Your kindness might not be virtue. It might be fear in disguise. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of standing alone. You call it humility. Your mind calls it survival. But survival is not the same as living. The people who change their lives don't become softer. They become clearer, colder, more selective. They stop giving emotional discounts to people who don't respect them. They stop explaining themselves to those who don't listen. They stop playing the role of the good person and start playing the role of the self-directed person. And that's where the fear comes in. Because becoming that person means you will lose. Some friends, some approval, some comfort. But you gain control, self-respect, psychological leverage. The crowd avoids this path because it's lonely at first. You're choosing it because you're tired of being small. Here's the question you need to face. Are you afraid of becoming cold? Or are you afraid of becoming free? Because freedom isn't warm. Freedom is sharp. Freedom cuts away illusions. Your brain is not designed to make you powerful. It's designed to make you accepted. This is the trap no one warns you about. When you try to change, your mind doesn't ask, "Will this make me stronger?" It asks, "Will this make me rejected?" That's why the moment you think about becoming colder, more assertive, more dominant, a wave of anxiety hits you. Your brain whispers, "What if people don't like you anymore? What if you go too far? What if you become someone unrecognizable?" That voice is not wisdom. That voice is conditioning. Dark psychology explains this with one brutal principle. Identity protects itself like a parasite. Your current personality, nice, cautious, agreeable, has kept you socially safe. So when you try to evolve, your old identity fights back. It creates guilt. It creates doubt. It creates fake moral arguments like being ambitious is selfish, being cold is toxic, being dominant is wrong. But notice something. Those beliefs only appear when you try to change, not when others dominate you, not when others ignore you, not when others take advantage of you. Suddenly, power is immoral, only when it's yours. That's psychological self-sabotage. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't fear becoming dangerous. You fear losing the version of you that survives on approval. Because once you stop needing validation, manipulation stops working on you. Once you stop explaining yourself, guilt loses power. Once you stop chasing acceptance, fear loses leverage. This is why transformation feels like death. You're not changing habits. You're killing an identity. And identities don't die quietly. They panic. They create emotional storms. They replay old memories. They remind you of times you were punished for standing out. Your brain says, "Remember when you spoke up and got rejected? Remember when you tried and failed?" Stay where it's safe. Safety is the cage. Now here's where dark psychology flips the script. Instead of asking, "How do I become confident?" you ask, "What version of me would no longer tolerate disrespect?" Instead of asking, "How do I stop being afraid?" you ask, "What would I do if fear had no vote?" This shifts your identity from emotional to strategic. Powerful people don't wait until they feel ready. They act first and let their mind catch up. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a pattern of decisions. Coldness is not cruelty. It's boundaries without apology. Dominance is not control over others. It's control over hesitation. And the person you're afraid to become, they don't hate people. They just stop negotiating with weakness, especially their own. Let's be honest. Your old self is comfortable being invisible. Your new self will be noticed. That means judgment. That means resistance. That means people saying, "You've changed," and they'll be right. But what they really mean is, you no longer serve the version of me that needed you small. This is the final psychological barrier. You confuse being feared with being respected. When you step into your sharper self, some people will feel uneasy. Not because you're evil, but because you're no longer predictable. And unpredictability is power. Here's the mistake most people make when they hear, "become the person you're afraid of." They think it means becoming cruel, emotionless, disconnected. a villain. That's not power. That's chaos. Dark psychology is not about destroying empathy. It's about controlling it. So let's define the transformation correctly. Becoming the person you're afraid to become means this. You stop letting fear decide your behavior. And there are 3 rules that keep your darkness disciplined instead of destructive. Rule number 1, be dangerous but deliberate. The version of you that wins is not impulsive. They don't explode emotionally. They don't overshare. They don't chase reactions. They choose silence instead of explanation. They choose distance instead of drama. They choose strategy instead of emotion. This is psychological dominance. Not shouting, not proving, not begging, just calm refusal. You don't argue with disrespect. You remove access. You don't try to be understood. You become undeniable. That's what scares people, because they can no longer control you with guilt or approval. Rule number 2, redirect aggression into standards. Aggression isn't violence. It's energy. Most people turn aggression inward and call it anxiety. You turn it outward and call it discipline. Instead of, I hope they respect me, you decide, if this crosses my standard, I walk away. Instead of, I don't want to be mean, you decide, I won't be weak with my boundaries. This is how the feared version of you is born, not through anger, but through non-negotiables. You don't need to dominate people. You dominate your own tolerance for nonsense. That's where self-respect comes from. Rule number 3, choose solitude over submission. Here's the truth most people can't handle. To become powerful, you must be willing to be misunderstood. The crowd will say, you've changed. You're cold now. You think you're better. What they really mean is, you no longer need us to feel whole. Solitude is not loneliness. It's independence from emotional slavery. The person you're afraid to become doesn't beg for connection. They select it. They don't overshare their struggles. They observe. They don't react immediately. They wait. And this creates a psychological shift. People start adjusting to you instead of you adjusting to them. That's influence. Now let me give you the final paradox. You don't become this person overnight, you practice them daily, one decision at a time. Saying no when you want to say yes, leaving when you want to stay, staying silent when you want to explain, acting when fear says wait. This is identity training. And eventually, the fear disappears. Not because you eliminated it, but because you stopped obeying it. The person you're afraid to become is not heartless. They are just no longer controlled. They feel emotion, but don't worship it. They care, but don't sacrifice themselves. They love, but don't lose themselves. So ask yourself this tonight. What would my life look like if fear had no authority over my choices? Because that person already exists inside you. You've just been avoiding them. And the moment you stop running is the moment you start becoming.